Good morning, friends. It's about 7:30 in the morning, and I just wanted to start our vlog. So today we're going to be writing like a Sagittarius and slash having my best Sagittarius day, I guess would be the best way to put this. I definitely want to do a lot of writing, and I'm going to be pulling some things that I had been collecting over the past 2 years in order to do this vlog. But life hit me upside the head and I never got around to it because I wanted to film it during the December of 2020 and actually have that go on my birthday, but I didn't have the time to do that, and unfortunately I just kind of let it sit and sit and sit. So hey, we're here today. So I will just say the first thing is that when I was looking at like routines and stuff for Sagittarians, the one thing that kind of came up a lot was like, we are go-getters, and we are. But the one website was like, you're such a go-getter, you're gonna wake up so early, 4 or 5 a.m. to get what you want. And listen, where I'm at in my life right now did not allow me to do that. I woke up at like 6-ish, 6:30-ish, I think. So it's not like I was completely like KO'd and like sleeping till 9, but I just couldn't do it because my life is chaotic. So I'm gonna like kind of wake up a little bit more and I'll check in a little bit, but I wanted to do the intro and say, hey, we're doing this today. Further, a big trait I think of Sagittarius is being spontaneous. Like that's like a lot of time when you read about Sagittarius, it's that they're spontaneous, they're wild, they're carefree, and I have not been that in a very long time. So we're gonna kind of roll with it. I want this to be productive, so I want to have a little bit of structure, but I also want to be doing what feels good for me. So whether that means that I'm going to be like doing things in the moment or changing my mind or going somewhere or whatever, what have you, I'm just going to follow my intuition for today. I will be home by myself until maybe 5 o'clock, if not a little bit later. And this weekend, since it's Labor Day weekend in the US, my husband always does a kind of softball tournament for charity, and he's only on one team, so we shouldn't be up there that much, but he has a game at 10 o'clock tonight. So it's going to be a very long day, especially because he's now in a golf tournament. So I'm going to have lots of things to do before he gets home between 5 and 6, and then we go out to eat into the baseball game. So first and foremost, my goal number 1 today is that by 5 o'clock, I should be done with writing for the day. There is something, and I'll touch back later on, but it was like, oh, you don't write after dinner time. So I'll kind of come back when I'm a little bit more focused, and I'll read through some of my day plans, but we're going to try to write and get all my writing stuff done before 5. So wish me luck. Hello friends, and I'm back. Long time no see. So I have my little paper here today where I'm going to talk a little bit about the type of routine, I guess, I'm going to be setting out for myself based on what like the websites say are the best for my star sign. So I kind of started this research, like I said, back in 2020, and at the time I found a website from Oprah, and it was about the best morning routine for your sign. And according to Oprah's website, you should never hit the snooze button, and you get up with vigor and ready to go. And it's kind of funny that like in this, and this was not like a writing routine, it was just a basic routine. Oprah's website said, work proposal looming over you, or a novel you're writing on the side, you'll get up at 4 a.m. to do it. You're also the type to get multiple things checked off your to-do list before work. And I find that funny because I think when I had a different job, when I was doing my traveling job, that was absolutely true. I did a lot of stuff in my house before I went to work, but I didn't go to work until like 9 or 10 or sometimes later. I just traveled all the time. So now when I have to be at my office for 7:30 in the morning to work with the kids, it's very hard for me to do that. While I do think sometimes I could be that way, and I've done things like my 5 a.m., my 6 a.m. writing challenges, like all of that in the past, it's not really where I'm at right now. And even now, waking up at like 6:30 today, I'm kind of still groggy. I had some weird dreams last night, so I'm kind of just easing into it, whereas I think they're basically saying like, you should be like full of energy and ready to go. And I guess in some ways I am, but I'm not quite. So from Oprah's website, she did say that my ideal routine would be purposeful, So I'd wake up early, I'd exercise, I'd, spend some time on work or a personal project, and I'm mission driven. So she basically said not to be putting away the dishes or balancing my checkbook. Like, we're thinking bigger than that. Like, we're planning, we're doing something that we're gonna be excited, which is so funny because one of my hangups is that, like, I don't like when there's clutter or there's things that I can't control. And I have like this hang up where, like, well, if the dishes are in the sink, I should do those before I start writing. So it's so funny because just in that little blurb from Oprah, I do not quite fit my Sagittarius roots. So we're gonna try it. So I think what I'm gonna do is, as she said, I'm gonna try to be purposeful. I'm gonna do a small workout routine, and I mean small by, I'm gonna go take my dog for a walk first, and then I'm going to make a cup of coffee. I contemplated with that whole like spontaneous thing, should I walk down to the local coffee shop because it's only 3 blocks away from my house, but I think I might do that later if I need an afternoon pick me up instead. So I'm gonna go walk my dog, I'm gonna come back and make my coffee, and then I'm gonna kind of like sketch out like what I want to actually accomplish today. So that's where we're at. Hi guys, it is now 9 a.m. and I am going to jump into writing. So I didn't exercise. I actually got a text from my mom who's taking a half day, so she asked me if I wanted to go for a walk later. So I decided I kind of wanted to go for a walk anyway, and might as well just say hi to my mom when I'm doing it. So I am going to switch things around. So instead of working out right in the morning, I'm going to probably try to write up until noon at least, if not a little bit earlier, and then I will take a break for lunch and go for a walk. I think this is going to be the most conducive for me, and nothing like a little Sagittarius spontaneity by changing your plans last minute. But I think it's still going to fit into like what I want to do today. The primary focus on the Sagittarius writing plan was to pretty much like do your work like throughout the day, but like have an end point, because overworking is not fun. While my to-do list did say not to do like mundane tasks this morning, I couldn't have myself. I did put the dishes in the dishwasher and I started that, and I also put a load of laundry in, just because for me it keeps a peace of mind, and it's still productive. Even though it might not be writing, it's still doing something that will benefit me. But now we are going to get into the writing. So for the writing, I have a pretty distinct goal for today. So if you've been on my channel and you've been following me a little bit, then you might know that I've been working, kind of most of my focus has been on my mermaid dark fantasy. I wrote 40,000 words back in November of 2020. And then from November of 2020 until about, I don't know, what month are we in? So maybe like March of this year, I really didn't work on Mermaid at all. And I decided that I wanted to reread it and then continue the story. So in order to do that, I was rereading it and editing it a little bit to make sure that there's consistency. So for today, I only have 3 more chapters to read, and then I am creating the rest of the story. So my goal for today is to read those 3 chapters and make edits as necessary. Once I do that, I'm gonna go back and make sure that my synopsis is still relatively consistent. I kind of forgot to do the synopsis when I was writing the last couple weeks, so I'm gonna go back and fill in the blanks of like the chapters that I missed. The synopsis is only a rough draft, but I'm trying to keep it so that like if you read the synopsis, it still flows. Like it's kind of, I'm using the synopsis as a tool instead of my enemy this time around. I didn't do that for Prophecy Project, and I feel like that was one of my downfalls when I was trying to create the synopsis from nothing. So even though it's probably not the synopsis that's going to be like the final cut, I'm just trying to get the skeleton out to help me and stay focused. So once I have the synopsis and those chapters read, my next task, and the only task that I am going to focus on for today, is to outline the rest of the book. So I'm currently at 20 chapters. I don't have
like an end goal in mind for how many chapters I think I need to have. I assume that the end of this book will be between about 90 and 100,000 words. So I'm thinking that I'm going to have at least 30 chapters in the book, if not a little bit more. As the books progressed, I've noticed that the chapters are getting a little bit longer because more things are happening. So we'll see. I don't exactly know, but my guess is gonna be like between 90 and 100,000 words to the end of the book, and that it's gonna be between like 30 and 35 chapters. But we'll see. I'm not really like hardcore holding myself to a number of chapters. I'm just going to outline and see how things will fall. And the way that I do my outlines is pretty much like notes. So I'll kind of jot down notes for like the scenes that are going to be in that chapter and go from there. It's not super detailed. It's not necessarily anything that I follow out of a book. It's just what I've found has helped me a lot when I'm trying to outline, is just to jot down the things that I feel like need to go in that chapter. So that's my goal for today. I am going to hop on. Now, a little bit of the spontaneity is coming back. I might be writing with a couple other people doing sprints. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I wanted to, I was telling my friend Kelly Wright that, you know, I took off today and I'm going to be doing a YouTube video, and she was like, oh my God, I'm doing writing sprints today. So if her and her partner are cool with me jumping into their sprints, then I will do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to motivate myself. And we're gonna work until about noonish, but I will check in if anything changes. And from my research that I did on like the Sagittarius writer, they pretty much said that like up until 5 o'clock a lot of times, like you are pretty committed. So the like ideal routine would have been for me to wake up early, eat a big breakfast, well, exercise, shower, and then eat a big breakfast. And then by 9 a.m. you'll like lock yourself in a room and you start writing. So you don't really stop until about like noon or 1 o'clock. And I think now that we're a little bit after 9, this is perfect time. So I will let you guys know how things go and wish me luck. I'm very excited to be diving in and hopefully being on the verge of writing new content for Mermaid.
It is 12:30. I worked a little bit overtime because I ended up working with two lovely people, and one of them was Kelly, and we talked a little bit after 12, but I finished the read through and oh my God. So I only wrote a very brief part of chapter 20, which was a page long, and that was it. So chapter 19 was like the last chapter and scenes I wrote really in depth, and oh my, it's probably one of my favorite chapters I've ever written. The tension between the prince and my main character, the implications, the thought processes, like I just am so proud of that chapter, and I cannot wait to explore another chapter later like that. But it is now time for me to break, and I'm very excited because, like I said, not only did I finish my read through, but I also have some good notes that I took with my read through. Things that I want to keep in mind, little nuggets that I included that I will need to circle back to. And I'm pretty much thinking this could be a standalone book, but I definitely have enough material that I could easily do 1 or 2 sequels as well. So for now, I am going to go get changed and eat a quick lunch, and then I have to get a couple things ready because I'm going to be walking with my mom in a little bit. So I want to make sure that I have everything ready to go, and so this is going to be like my break. I'm going to do all my little stuff. I'm going to eat my lunch. I'm going to go meet my mom, and then I'm going to come back and finish writing until I get my outline done. So I feel like for the most part, I'm in the zone. Now, I was going to do like trying to do like, oh, Sagittarius things, pick my day and things like that. But to be honest, I'm very like with time wise and location wise, like I found like, oh, I could pick my Starbucks drink, but there's not a Starbucks really near me. It also recommended that like my ideal Sagittarius lunch is a shrimp avocado salad, and literally nowhere within like 10 minutes of me would sell something like that. So I'm really like, my hands are tied at what I can eat. So I'm not gonna go too crazy, but it was my intention to do that. And again, just like me, I just do what I want, right? Sagittarius are free-spirited and they do what they want, and that's what I'm gonna do today. So without me rambling, I would like to go get my shit done. So I'll come back later. Hello, my darlings. It is 1:54 p.m. Let me get a little set up first and I'll come right back. Okay, this is a little bit better because I feel like I just have a little bit to check in on and just to see how my day's going. So in the last hour and a half, I ate some lunch. Now, my intention was to eat healthy, but your girl really needs to go to the store. So I just ate my leftover cheese and gravy fries from yesterday. It was good, but I also didn't want to eat too much because I was supposed to go for a walk. And like I said, it's almost 2 o'clock now, and my mother has yet to text me. So I guess she had to pick up my brother. He was doing like a sleep study or something, so he was picked up from the hospital. So that might have taken a little bit more time than I imagined it would be, but I am hopefully going to go for a walk soon. But I am feeling really good. I'm very excited to dive into my outline when I get back home, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous. There's a lot at play that I have to like do. And granted, this is just a first draft, so it's not like everything has to be perfect, but there's a lot that I have to be crafty about. So on the note of my novel, some of the things that I have to make sure goes well is there's a couple things that happen in the mermaid kingdom, the mer kingdom, where like people kind of make a little bit of rumors, and I do need to circle back to that a little bit. The one rumor was about how there's never been 2 victors for the throne, or has there been, and what happens. So there definitely seems to be some secrets that my main character has to find out. And we're about halfway through the book, so she needs to start like uncovering some of them. The second thing I have to plot is, because this somewhat references The Little Mermaid, like the original Hans Christian Andersen Little Mermaid, as well as like some nods to the Disney Mermaid, but it's adult and it's a little bit darker. But there's some elements that I wanted to like give nods to because there is a little bit of inspiration. And the one part in the movie of The Little Mermaid when she loses her voice and she gets into the Sea Witch, I'm trying to determine what I want to do with that, because I could do more of a literal borrowing her voice by like using her and her voice to do something for the Sea Witch, or I can actually have a little bit of magic where the Sea Witch steals her song for a brief time under a contract and all that kind of thing. And I'm deciding on how that's going to be handled, because that would be an introduction of some magic. And obviously this is a fantasy realm and there's mermaids already, so somewhat magic is present. I mean, they have more creatures, but they're literally more of like shapeshifters, where like the mermaids can like take their form and they can also walk on land, versus like actually having magic. Like under the sea, they are just sea creatures. They don't actually do anything. They can't possess anything, and they don't really influence anything other than maybe being able to kind of communicate more with the fish. I kind of look at it as kind of like Aquaman, where he can understand other sea creatures a little bit, but if Aquaman didn't have any of the extra abilities that he has. So if I introduce magic, like how does that change things, and what is the scope of the magic in this world? That's something that I have to think about a little bit more, because I don't know if I definitely want all the magic. Like I kind of just want it to be more people-y focused with like a hint of magic, but not as much. So I'm going to debate on that, because there's 2 ways I can go with it. And the mystery with the Sea Witch is, does she actually have magic? That is kind of like her mystery of all. Like she knows a lot of things and she's kind of has her hands in things, but they don't actually know if she's magical. So that's kind of like why people are so in awe of her. So keeping her by like just using my main character like to do her bidding versus stealing her actual song might be beneficial for the story as well. So I have to flesh that out a little bit more. Similarly, with my Mer Kingdom, because this has been like millennia of traditions where like the heirs on the throne all fight for a battle for the throne, and the goal is to eliminate all the heirs that are weak or unfit.
And if they all die doing their tasks that are given to them, then it would open it up to anybody who wants to perform an impossible task to prove that they are worth the throne. But this particular family has been in power for about 1,000 years. So there's at least like 3 generations. And there's a question of, you know, has this been a ploy for the throne? And if so, what gain would the Mer Kingdom have? Because they don't really have like structured kingdoms like we would on the land and what we know from our own history. So what would be the gain of staying on the throne if the Mer Kingdom only really has like a leader figure to like dispute land territories, really? Like they're more like an emissary than a king or queen kind of under the sea. So like their role is just to negotiate things with other kingdoms if necessary. And that's really all like the figure is. Like they don't really do anything. They don't even really govern like the people. They're just kind of like, it's more of a, here's what you can do for us. So if they were trying to control and stay in power, there has to be a really good reason for that, because most people don't care other than like having the title. So I have to play around with that a little bit more. And overall, there's just a little bit of things that I have to go back and like tweak a little bit. I have to make sure my timeline consistencies are there. There's one where I feel like it would flow a little bit better. And then I have to remember like when she started practicing walking on land versus being found by the prince. Like I have to figure out how long that was, because then we'd have to figure out how long she's actually on land for. And not that I don't think they could fall in love rather quickly or fall in lust with each other, but I want to make it believable. So I have to figure out some timeline things and just making sure I tie up little loose ends, because I do think that this could be potentially a book where it would have sequels. I could also make it that it ends with like an open ending. But yeah, those are just my musings, and it feels good to just kind of talk out and kind of figure out where I need to go with this. I do feel very productive today, all in all, about this whole writing experiment. On the note, before I hopefully go for a walk soon, I did just want to say, from Sun Signs for Writers, they did specifically say that for Sagittarius, we are gregarious, blunt, and freedom-loving, which I think is a very typical common trait for Sagittarians. And I find it funny because it says subjects such as law, religion, and politics fascinate us. I would say like studying it to study it and do it as a job doesn't, like none of that would always interest me, but writing about it, and I do find that I have a fascination with religions and learning like how they come about and what's the principles of it is definitely something interesting to me. And that's also something that the religions, the laws, and the politics of my mermaid story are something that I'm really trying to focus and flesh out, because there is not really a ton of magic, if there's going to be any at all. And those are really where the story needs to be bulked up, because that's where a lot of this comes from. So it's funny that that was what was mentioned on this website, and is kind of true. The same website also said that we are really good conversationalists, and that comes through on dialogue. And I do tend to find that I love writing dialogue. And it's kind of funny when I'm writing it and then I hear other people who struggle with it. That's always been interesting to me, because that's where I feel like I do really well. And I tend, in my opinion, to make it seem very normal. You know, sometimes with reading versus how we talk, it's going to be different, because reading something isn't the same as talking. We get off on tangents, we go crazy, right? So being able to border that feeling natural but also flowing in a book, I think I do kind of well. So I'm just, yeah, I feel like that has actually been one of the truest things that have happened so far in my little experiment. And then Pop Sugar also had a thing about what kind of side hustle you should have for your star sign. And I feel like this is not shocking at all, but you know, the wanderlust for our Sagittarians over here, being somewhere in a field where you can travel. And because my side hustle would likely be my writing if it comes to fruition one day, that makes total sense, because I would be able to write and not only transport myself into the lands I create, but hopefully I would one day on my writing bucket list is to go on book tours and be able to travel other places and meet people. So totally up my alley. So let's like manifest that, put it in the stars, and maybe I'll get there one day. But anywho, it is now 12:05. I've rambled quite a bit. This is probably going to be a very long vlog. I'm so sorry. I'm going to go now.
Got your message, or when you called. What time did you message me?
Hi friends. So in true Sagittarius fashion, and another thing which was funny was from the Culture Astrology website, cultureastrology.com, it had said like the best writing advice that they could give for Sagittarius is to stay focused, which, you know, saying to stay focused without giving tangible advice is probably not the best either, but it basically just said that we tend to jump from one thing to another without finishing anything. They specifically were talking about books, which is also a little bit true. It does take me a lot to finish things because I get ideas and I'm getting better as I get older, but I also think in general for my life that is very true. And lo and behold, it is now 5:20. I did not get to outline today, and I don't think I'm going to because the rest of the night I have some things going on. My husband is in a softball tournament and I'm going to that, and we're gonna go get dinner. And I'm gonna play a few video games for a little bit. I wanted to treat myself. I feel very good. This was a really great mental health day, and I'm really excited with how I finished my read through and I'm loving it. So I think tomorrow will be when I outline the rest of my book, and then I might reach out and ask some people if they would like to be my critique partners for this novel. So what I would like is the work that I've already done. I would like to send them like 2 chapters at a time while I'm writing the rest of the story to see how they think everything flows. So that way, by the time I finish the story, I don't have to take too long to go back into my edits because I'll already have all their feedback. And that'll also help me inform like the rest of my novel as I'm writing to see like what things might come up from them and their perspective and how that might shape what I'm writing moving forward. So for now, I'm gonna go jump into, I think we're gonna play Fortnite. I played last weekend and I ended up being pretty good. So I think that's what we're gonna play now, but I will talk to you guys later.
I was trying to tell your dad because that was purposely like they put his and you remember them first.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the end of my vlog for rating like a Sagittarius / having a Sagittarius writing routine or just routine in general. So I wanted to come in and just kind of wrap this up and talk about some of my thoughts, and I won't lie, I feel like this was more just a standard vlog than anything. I did try to incorporate a lot of things like specifically like Sagittarius, but to be honest, as much as I tried to plan for this, my life has been so chaotic, and actually sitting down and structuring something and having to be able to do that is so precarious right now because of my internship and grad school and trying to find time to do things. With that being said, I feel like that is me being the very best Sagittarius that I could possibly be because it was a little chaotic. It was kind of like spur of the moment things, and it was kind of carefree. Despite being able to get a lot of things done, I kind of did whatever felt good in the moment. And I think ultimately having uninterrupted, go with the flow, fun was exactly what I needed. And ultimately, I am very happy with the work that I did. So I did stop doing any type of writing at 5 p.m. So that meant I had pretty much 3 solid hours of editing, and I did a little bit of my synopsis as well. Now I realized that probably from like chapter 10 to chapter 16, I forgot to like keep up with my synopsis. I was actually like writing a lot on the go. I was writing in my living room, I was writing in my writing club that's at a physical place, so I wasn't like pulling up the tabs like I normally do when I'm sitting in this room. And because of that, I do still have to go back and finish up like that quick synopsis, like the unedited version of that. I also still have to do a whole outline for the rest of the book, and I apologize, my dryer is going and all of a sudden I just got very noisy for no reason. I just had to go stop it because it was actually driving me nuts. I do think I'm gonna ask a couple of my critique partners, not that I have many, but I have like 2 to 3 that I might just reach out to and see if anyone's up for brainstorming this weekend. I have a bit of the questions that I posed in this video that I want to run by, and I have a couple ideas of where I might be able to go with the story in each direction, so I want to just pick their brains and see what they think would be the better options. And overall, I'm just very happy. I mentioned in my mid-year check of my goals that
for Project Mermaid, all I wanted to do was do a read through and outline. So I'm pretty much almost done with that goal. I think at this point I may try to actually finish the book by this year, because I might as well. I'm already pretty much halfway through with it and I'm loving the story so far. And I think it would be good to finish Mermaid before I jump into my vampire project, because vampire it's a little bit darker. Like all of my books tend to get a little bit darker as they go on, but it's also very different. It is way more paranormal, set in our world, contemporary fantasy, and it has a different vibe completely. Like my main character isn't a magical creature, she is a human, as compared to this book where it is the point of view of a mermaid and it's also in first person. So just very different overall. And I think finishing Mermaid would make me feel better going into vampire again. But I also already have vampire outlined completely, so I feel much better starting with that. Mermaid, I'm a little bit worried about outlining it because I've never outlined halfway through a book before. So it's going to be interesting because I have ideas of where the book's going to go. It's just whether or not I can pull it off and if I can actually conceptualize it for an outline. So overall for this, I think I could possibly do this again. Maybe in a day where I have like a complete day to myself and I don't have to worry about going somewhere with anybody or something that my husband's gonna do. I feel like if I had a solid day, I might plan it a little bit better. Or conversely, maybe I would try to do one of my other signs. My moon is a Scorpio and my rising is a Cancer, and maybe doing one of those would be interesting to try to see how that routine works. Ultimately, I think this routine would go very well if I was a full-time writer. I tend to find that writing routines that like make me like are to like pop awake, get started immediately, like start your day, don't actually work the best for me. So even though I was technically supposed to start writing early, I started writing at 9 a.m., which is technically late compared to what it was suggested for me to start. But that was like my golden time. I was able to wake up, I woke my body up, I just kind of got some breakfast in me and coffee, and I adjusted slowly. So I'm curious to see if Scorpio or Cancer would actually align better with me. And on my final note, I'm just going to tell you about some Sagittarius writers out there in the world. So some classics include Jane Austen, Mark Twain, C.S. Lewis, Emily Dickinson, and Louisa May Alcott. A lot of big names that are Sagittarius, and my current inspiration and the person I really need to read a book from eventually is Brandon Sanderson. He's also a Sagittarius, so we have that in common. I mean, let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I don't know if this is necessarily quite a routine. You could be the judge of that, but I do think that I kind of was my star sign to the best of my ability when I did this, and I had a lot of fun. It was productive. I felt really good. It was a good mental health day for me, and I'm glad to be able to share it with you guys. So let me know down below if you're interested in me doing another sign, either my moon or my rising, and let me know down below which one of those two I should do next. It likely won't be for a few months, but I will definitely make plans to do it in the future. And with that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you then.